Whitehead, Audre, my dear. This mic is all yours. There's no sound, Audre.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Hello?
can hear you now.
Oh, geez. Sorry about that, everybody. All right. Well, hello. Good to be here. Thank you so much for having this space, Lynn and Dove, ACIM Gather, and Reb Wayne for your program, talking about relationships. I just was funny because this morning I was actually thinking about Reb Wayne and just what's happening with him in his life. And I had this thought of, oh, like, well, we're all gonna die. But I was like, oh my gosh, well, what if he died like right away, like sooner than I'm thinking? And I'm so grateful that I was able to notice the thought that came up and said, you better not get too close then. And what a wonderful, wonderful miracle to see that and say, you know what? That's not who I am. That's not what I am. I want to get closer. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I know the form is going to go away. That will not keep me from sharing love. And so I'm just willing to give that up and always see another way, the better way, the right-minded way. So thank you, Rev Wayne, and just thank you for you. I just really do appreciate you. Yeah, so here we go. We're reading from John Mundy, and I actually had a little talk with him yesterday briefly, just after his class, and it was quite nice to just know these people that I've heard their names throughout, and it's not something that one would normally get to meet. They're mentors of books and whatnot. So it's just a divine experience all around. Oh, yeah. So, yes, we're in A Course in Mysticism and Miracles. Begin your spiritual adventure. And as I open it, I'm like, oh, wow, there's quite a good chunk here that we've been through. This is wonderful. So I'm on chapter 8, which is page 76 in the actual book, if you have it and are following along. You certainly don't need to have the book, but it is offered, I believe, in Amazon and whatnot. It's a great book so far. Here we go. Chapter 8, The Miracle of Ineffability. And I did look up that word, and it means too great or extreme to be expressed or described in words. Yeah, the experiential, you know, the whole experiential part of life that isn't always something that is describable with words. We try to, and we have to remember that words are merely the pointers to the truth, because sometimes as these humans and thinkers, we can get caught up in, I know I can, in the great scholarly study, the intellect of it all. So this is great that we're moving into this chapter. And a quote from Ram Dass: what can't be said can't be said. It can't be whistled either. or either. Most researchers into mysticism speak of ineffability as one of its foremost characteristics. That just makes me laugh for a minute because it's like ineffability, and it's like F. I'm thinking like F off, ineffability. It's just too extreme to be expressed or described in words. So, hey, we got the middle finger. I saw. Oh, forgive me. All right. Zen speaks of the Satori experience as a wordless realization. The mystic way of knowing, like love, cannot be captured by words. Fortunately, in addition to words, the world is also filled with music, math, art, nature, emotions, sensations, and intuition, all of which provide imitations of immortality. Mystics are contemplative, spiritual travelers seeking a peaceful state of mind. The world is now and always has been filled with distractions, politics, and controversy. The more we do the inner work, however, the quieter we become and the less distracted by the world. This often comes with in-depth spiritual study, which, Rumi tells us, does not occur on speech's playing field. The ineffable resides rather in the miracle of wordless wonder. Of course, like all of the beautiful poems and books written by mystics, the Course, the Bible, and the Quran are all made up of words. Words, like the body, are tools we use to work our way through the world. When it comes time to lay the body down, however, the Course says we should simply thank it for all the service it has given us and let it go. As we approach the end of the journey, we also find that words begin to outlive their usefulness. Inner knowing surpasses words. Words will mean little now, the Course teaches us. We use them but as guides on which we do not now depend. For now we seek direct experience of truth alone. That's from the workbook part 2, introduction. Remember that the ego is merely a projector, a judge, an opinion maker, a name caller. Mystics, on the other hand, are receptors rather than projectors. They just see. They see the insanity of the world and they choose not to be caught up in it. They refuse to look out upon the world in fear. They refuse to recognize enemies. They harbor no thoughts of attack or defense. If thoughts like these arise in you, look at them carefully and let them go. And I just want to reiterate just having that thought about not getting closer to my brother because I was afraid he was going to die soon. And being grateful again for just even being able to see that a thought like that was there. Because I tell you, there used to be a belief in me that there weren't any thoughts preceding emotions, that I just got angry and there was no thought. And when I was being a psychologist and they were trying to teach cognitive behavioral training, they said, well, there has to be a thought there before you get angry. And I'm like, well, there is no thought there. And they just kept telling me that there has to be a thought there. I guess today's terminology would be gaslighting me because I was not having that experience. And I was pretty convinced that I was not having any thought, that it was just this energy that was coming up. And that was the experience. That was my experience. I didn't have a thought that I recognized. So you can only have the experience you're experiencing it. And that gives me so much compassion to somebody else who's like saying, oh, blah, 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 blah. And I have no idea what they're talking about, no reference. It doesn't mean I'm not going to believe them, because I know what that's like, and I can have compassion and empathy, and I have that kind of scene in my mind from this great play that has happened. It is helpful to this one anyway. Yeah. They harbor no thoughts of attack or defense. If thoughts like these arise in you, look at them carefully and let them go. They harbor no thoughts of attack or defense. I read that again. Anita Morjani, in describing her near-death experience, talked about speaking with her father telepathically. Words, spoken or written, are things that can, at best, only point to the truth. Truth surpasses all words. The Course asks us to unite with the truth, the love we find in one another. And definitely not to run away just because you're scared of something that isn't even happening right now. Okay, next section is called Beyond Words. We're going beyond the words now. Yay! Although we need the words to communicate in this fashion on Zoom and YouTube. As long as we are in this world of form and duality, working with our physical bodies, we work with words. We must simply do the best we can, knowing that words at best can only point us to the truth. Nor is there any need for us to try to speak of what must forever lie beyond words, the Course observed. We need remember only that whoever attains the real world beyond which learning cannot go, will go beyond it, but in a different way. Where learning ends, there God begins. For learning ends before him who is complete where he begins and where there is no end. Text chapter 18, so wordy. Learning ends, God begins. Learning ends before him, complete where he begins and where there is no end. Sometimes I feel like it's a bit of a Dr. Seuss situation here, Go dog go. Do you like this hat? I like this hat. I do. I like that hat. It's a party hat. That was one of the books I read many, many times for my son. Go dog go. Dr. Seuss. So, this expresses the central tenet of apophatic mysticism. The term apophatic comes from the Greek apophasis, meaning negation. Apophatic mysticism is thus grounded in the conviction that it is easier to say what God is not than what God is. Speaking of Allah, Islamic mystic Ibn Arabiya, a central spiritual teacher in medieval Sufism, writes, he is not accompanied by thingness, nor do we ascribe it to him. The negation of thingness from him is one of his essential attributes. Apophic mysticism is also clearly seen in the classical Tao Te Ching, which begins, even the finest teaching is not the Tao itself. Even the finest name is insufficient to define it. Without words, the Tao is experienced, and without a name, it is known. Isn't that beautiful? Because as soon as we start to put the words to it, the whole experience diminishes. Just seems to take away something. But not, it didn't used to feel that way with words. Like I really, really loved, I love the way, you know, our language writes and how beautiful the words can be used to describe things and show and whatnot. So, you know, that again, it's that contrast in seeing that I love the language, you know, this language, and almost to a fault, really, and that the language was for in the foreground to the experience. So this is so beautiful to know that, you know, I don't need to memorize anything anymore about, you know, what does this mean? What does this go with? What do I have to say about this? No, there's nothing there. There's no test. There's no multiple choice trick questions. It's just now to sit back and experience this whole cosmos of delight, despair, and everything in between. What this brand of mysticism calls for, then, is an emptying out of our insane thinking to make room for God. After all, as English Taoist philosopher Wei Wu oh darn it, sorry, points out, rationality can take you only so far. In a similar manner, the anonymous mystical work, The Cloud of Unknowing, written in the latter part of the 14th century, emphasizes the importance of a contemplative inner life. In order to see clearly, it claims, we must transcend the world. I just hear that. I can see clearly now, the rain has gone. I can see all obstacles in my way. Contemplation, the main tool of the mystic, is a form of inner turning that lifts us up beyond the world. Mystics know that the answers to life do not reside in the world. Therefore, they turn ever more inward. Teresa of Avila gives the first devotion of the heart as mental prayers or contemplation, which she describes as the withdrawal of the soul from without. When peace comes at last to those who wrestle with temptation and fight against the giving into sin, when the light comes at last into the mind given to contemplation, or when the goal is finally achieved by anyone, it always comes with just one happy realization: I need do nothing. That's from the text, chapter 18 of A Course in Miracles. And the quote with the title Panning for Gold is by Kui Yuji, if you don't wash out the stone and sand, how can you pick out the gold? Carefully seek the heart of heaven with firm determination, and you will see the original thing. And Cindy in the chat here says, do what do and say what you say. Do what you do and say what you say. For those that mind don't matter, and those that matter don't mind. Dr. Seuss. Think if we all had that freedom. Yeah, what a wonderful world we would see. Indeed. Thank you, Cindy. Yeah. And we're going to go in here to the book. I enjoy reading 20th century Indian teacher Ramesh Balsekar because his teaching is so simple and clear. According to Ramesh, who was influenced by the teachings of Ramana Maharshi and Wee Woo Wee, analyzing and conceptualizing are a waste of time because enlightenment can come only to an empty mind. Our task, he says, is to wake up. Upon awakening, we see we always have been and we always will be. What is absent in enlightenment, he claims, is duality, me as a separate entity and you as another separate entity. This message is essentially the same as that of the Course, that we have already achieved, already are, what we are trying to realize or wake up to. According to Ramesh, words are a distraction to enlightenment. To be enlightened, we must be free of concept. Contemplation is observation of inner thoughts without condemnation. It calls upon us to look deep within, to be reflective, and to refrain from projection, so that we find, like a miner with a lamp, where the gold is hidden in the dark. From this perspective, we can also see the slag, the dross, the unwanted portion. That is, we know what is not worthwhile as well as that which is. As the Tao Te Ching puts it, muddy water let stand will clear. There is a type of thinking that is not thinking. Rather, it is a cleansing, a reducing filth, a reducing down and a filtering out, a dropping or releasing of the unessential. To get to God, to get to the gold, to become receptive, all projections must be laid aside. It doesn't matter how absurd, ridiculous, or far-fetched someone's ideas may be. That person needs my love, not my judgment. According to Ramana Maharshi, in rapture or ecstasy, the purified mind can be so absorbed that it can be complete. Go deeply enough and you'll find rapture and ecstasy. Rapture means being carried away. Ecstasy means standing outside oneself. To say something is breathtaking also means that it is thought-taking. There are no words to describe the mystical experience, yet it provokes a profound, deep inner knowing. As Buddhist Lankavahati Sutra teaches us, words and sentences are produced by the law of causation and are mutually conditioning. They cannot express highest reality. And from the Manual for Teachers in chapter 21, twice removed. God does not understand words. for they were made by separated minds to keep them in the illusion of separation. Words can be helpful, particularly for the beginners, in helping concentration and facilitating the exclusion, or at least the control of extraneous thought. Let us not forget, however, that words are but symbols of symbols. They are thus twice removed from reality. And again, that's the Manual for Teachers, Chapter 1. And I think I'm going to end on that quote and mark my page here. So this is just really great. I'm just loving John's writing. He's just got a great way of bringing together some of these teachers, a lot of these teachers here in these quotes, and this mysticism. I'm just feeling so inspired by it and almost like an affinity to it, you know, like, oh, I kind of course, this is a label, and my mind's just taking a little glee over, oh, I'm a mystic. I could be a mystic. So that's fun to watch, that little little dance there. But you know, it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing to be able to read this out loud, because it sure provides me with different insights and just a whole new perspective, which is a miracle. That's what a miracle is. So thank you, everybody, for being here, and I hope everybody has an awesome rest of the day. I love you. Amen.
Thank you so much, Audre, and grateful for you being here and reading this awesome book. So we are all mystics, and you are a mystic. And, you know, I mean, what is a mystic? You know, it's someone who sees beyond the illusion, sees that there's something else here. And I think that's all what we're learning here through studying A Course in Miracles and other teachings as well. So let me stop this live